if you're a parent, or really, if you just exist anywhere near a child today,
Mhm.
you've probably been flooded with advice.
Oh, completely.
You hear gentle parenting, RE, uh, emotion coaching.
It's a lot.
It is. And for you, our listener, the mission here isn't to just memorize all these buzzwords. It's to, cut through that noise.
Right.
We want to pull out the core, the evidence-based stuff that's actually proven to help raise resilient, self-regulated kids.
And that's our whole focus for this deep dive: synthesis and mechanism. Because the good, solid science of parenting, it really all hinges on one critical tension.
Okay.
How do you perfectly balance responsiveness, that warmth, that connection with demandingness, the structure, the
The
boundaries?
two sides of the coin.
Exactly. So we're going to start with that authoritative bedrock, and then we'll get into why these modern techniques, like emotion coaching, are such powerful tools within that framework.
Okay, let's do it. Let's start with the research. It really goes back to Diana Baumrien's foundational work on parenting styles.
Hmm.
We know there are four, but I think it's useful to frame the stakes by looking at what happens when things are out of balance first. Then we can dig into the gold standard, which is authoritative parenting.
Yeah, that's a great way to look at it, because when you see the imbalance, you see how quickly things can go wrong.
Right.
So, take being high in demandingness but low in warmth. That's the authoritarian style. You expect total compliance, no questions asked.
And what's the outcome there?
Well, outwardly, the kids might look disciplined, but the long term research shows they often end up with low self esteem. They really struggle with decision making, and you can see increased aggression.
Because they haven't learned to manage their own internal world.
Exactly. And then you have the opposite, which I think a lot of modern parents are worried about falling into,
You mean a high warmth, but really low demands.
right? That's permissive or indulgent parenting.
Mm-hmm.
Super warm, but almost no boundaries. And the science on this is pretty stark. Kids raised this way struggle, really struggle, with self regulation. That lack of structure means they don't develop those internal controls.
Which can lead to bigger problems down the line.
Yeah, things like impulse control issues, even delinquency. And then, of course, the worst case is the uninvolved style, low on both. That's just linked to the most severe developmental problems.
So the takeaway is that the mix, that balance, it's not just a nice to have, it's non-negotiable.
It is.
So tell us more about that authoritative gold standard. Why is that style so powerful?
It's that sweet spot: high demandingness and high responsiveness. It's warm, it's supportive, but it's also firm with clear expectations. You're not a dictator, you're more of a thoughtful leader.
And it really fosters autonomy, right?
Absolutely. Because when you use reason, when you talk through the limits with your child, they develop self-reliance, critical thinking, and, this amazing capacity to make decisions on their own.
And that must connect directly to how they do outside the home.
Oh, 100%. The research consistently shows better academic outcomes, better social outcomes, and the mechanism there is key.
What is it?
It's self-regulation. Authoritative parenting actively teaches a child how to manage frustration, how to delay gratification, and that skill is the engine that drives everything else. It's about teaching the child to manage themselves instead of you constantly managing the child.
Okay, so that really sets the foundation. You have to be warm, but you also have to hold the line.
Yep.
So now let's talk about the philosophies that are everywhere today. Gentle parenting, RIE,
Yeah.
which really focus on that responsiveness side of the model.
The connection piece.
Exactly. They're all about connection, respect, validation. So if those are the principles, what are the actual proven mechanisms that make them work?
The foundational mechanism is it's radical respect. You see this rooted in RIE, or respectful infant educaring, from Magda Gerber.
And the idea there is,
The mission is to just center that relationship in the first couple of years. You make this leap of faith to treat even a nonverbal baby like they're an important person in the world.
so what did that look like in practice, viewing an infant that way?
It means you step back a little. It gives you permission not to be constantly interfering or stimulating them.
So if a baby is playing, you just
You observe, you don't interrupt. And that non interference fosters autonomy from day one. It sends this message that says, I trust you and I'm right here if you need me. It's actually really grounding for the parent, too.
right, because you don't feel like you have to be doing something all the time.
Exactly.
And when distress does hit, which it always does, that's where something like emotion coaching comes in.
Yes. Emotion coaching, or EC, which is from the Gottman framework, is really the highest evidence technique for that responsiveness piece.
Mm.
It means you're aware of and you accept all the negative emotions: anger, sadness, fear.
You don't shut them down.
You don't shut them down. You help the child understand them. You're labeling, you're validating, and then you're problem solving together.
And you mentioned this builds deep resilience. It's not just about the moment.
It's a huge protective factor. The research shows it doesn't just improve self regulation in the short term. One of the biggest findings is that maternal emotion coaching acts like a buffer.
A buffer against what?
It protects adolescents from things like depression and anxiety, even when the family is under a lot of stress, like from marital conflict. It literally builds emotional armor.
Okay, but here's the challenge every parent listening will recognize. To do that, you have to be calm.
Mm.
How do you do that in the middle of a tantrum? How do you master co-regulation?
Well, co regulation is that process where your nervous system basically acts as an external support for your child's developing brain.
The child borrows your calm.
The child borrows your calm, which means the absolute prerequisite is parental self regulation. If you're triggered, if you're in fight or flight, you are structurally unable to provide that calm. You just can't. You can't lend what you don't have.
So the question shifts from how do I fix my kid's meltdown to how do I manage my own reaction?
Exactly. Non reactivity is everything. There's a great anecdote about a child who was suddenly terrified of cats.
Okay,
The mom's instinct was to rush in, scoop him up, which is loving, but it can signal to the child, yes, this is an emergency. You should be scared.
right.
The advice she got was just to stay put. Be a safe, neutral presence, but don't pick him up. And by staying calm, by treating his distress as manageable and not threatening, she created a safe space for him to process it.
And what happened?
He calmed down way faster. And the fear never turned into a phobia. Her calm communicated safety more than any words ever could.
Which brings us to the common critique of gentle parenting. If you only focus on that warmth, you risk falling into that permissive trap.
That's the danger. The principles are excellent, but the social media version can promote these unrealistic ideals of perfect calm, which leads to so much guilt and burnout.
And you end up losing the other half of the equation.
You do. If you only accept the emotions without holding the consistent boundaries, that high demandingness side, you're not helping your child navigate the real world. You have to validate the feeling, but hold the line on the behavior.
Okay, so let's pivot. Let's talk about that demandingness side. How do we set clear, respectful limits that actually teach responsibility without, going back to old school punishment?
Well, the foundation for all of it is consistency. That provides the stable operating manual for their world. If the rules are always changing, a kid just learns to push harder.
Right.
And beyond that, we have to really understand the difference between punishment and positive discipline.
Which goes back to Haim Janat.
It does. He taught us to separate the deed from the doer. The child is never bad. The behavior might be unacceptable, but the child is good. Discipline should preserve their self worth. Punishment often just creates resentment and shame.
So give me an example. A kid draws on the wall. How do you handle that with a validation script that separates the deed from the doer?
You lead with empathy, but you end with the limit. For a toddler, you might say something like, wow, you really wanted to make your picture bigger? That's a big feeling, but walls are not for drawing. We only draw on paper.
And then guide them to clean it up.
Right. Or for something like hitting, you have to be even firmer. I won't let you hurt me. You are very angry, and that's okay, but we need to find another way to show it.
So you validate the emotion, but you stop the action.
Immediately. The feeling is valid, the aggression is not.
And this is where consequences come in, but as teaching tools, not retribution.
Precisely. We talk about two types. First are natural consequences. They just happen. If you don't wear your coat, you get cold. You overload your backpack, it gets too heavy to carry.
And the parent's job is just to let it happen.
You observe and reflect. No, I told you so. The other type is logical consequences. These are set up by the parent and are directly related to the action.
Could you give us an example of a logical one?
Sure, if the rule is toys get cleaned up before we can have screen time and the child doesn't do it, the logical consequence might be that those toys don't come out tomorrow. It has to be related, respectful, and reasonable. It's not about making them suffer, it's about connecting an action to an outcome.
And through it all, you're trying to offer choices to build their sense of competence.
Always, even small choices. Do you want the blue socks or the red socks? Clean up now or in 5 minutes? It gives them a feeling of control, which is so important.
Okay, let's move into a more advanced strategy for those really persistent, challenging behaviors. Sometimes we hear it's not actually defiance. It's about lagging neurocognitive skills, problems of flexibility, or frustration tolerance.
That's a huge paradigm shift.
If it's a skill, not a will problem, how does that change our approach?
It changes everything. When a behavior sticks around despite warmth and consequences, the child is likely missing a skill. They aren't choosing to be difficult. And that's where you need a skill building approach like collaborative problem solving or CPS.
CPS is often used for more challenging behaviors, maybe with ADHD or anxiety.
Yeah.
What's the core philosophy?
The whole model is built on one simple belief from Dr. Ross Green: kids do well if they can. The focus is on figuring out what skill they're missing and then teaching it collaboratively.
Instead of just forcing compliance.
Exactly. It's maybe the purest application of the authoritative model you can find.
So walk us through the mechanics of it, the three-step plan B.
Okay, so plan B is very deliberate. Step one is the empathy step. This is pure responsiveness. The adult approaches the child with a neutral, non judgmental question like, "Hey, I've noticed that when it's time to turn off the game, we end up arguing. What's up?"
You just listen.
You just listen. You gather information. You try to understand their perspective on why it's hard.
That sounds simple, but it's probably the hardest part. To just listen without jumping in with your own agenda.
Oh, it is, absolutely. Then you move to step two: define the problem. This is the demandingness part. You calmly state your concern. My concern is that we need to leave on time for school.
So you lay your card on the table.
You do. And finally, step three is the invitation. You say, "So you need to feel like you can save your game, and I need us to leave on time. How can we solve this so we both get what we need?" And you brainstorm solutions together.
And that process itself is teaching them so many skills.
Huge skills: negotiation, problem solving, frustration tolerance, all in real time.
What about the more day-to-day struggles like organization and executive functioning?
Well, those skills are the bedrock of school. So parents have to become sort of an external support system.
Okay.
First, create routines, use visual checklists, eat breakfast, brush teeth, get shoes. It offloads the work from their working memory. Second, for big tasks, you have to chunk it down. Don't say, "Go do your history report." Say, "First, just find two sources." Break it into tiny pieces.
Tiny, manageable pieces.
Then what about that huge friction point for so many families? Transition.
Transitions are so neurologically difficult, especially for kids who struggle with flexibility. The single best tool is the transition warning.
Countdown.
The countdown. 10 minutes until screen time ends, 5 minutes, 1 minute. It gives their brain time to prepare for the shift, and it can prevent so many meltdowns.
So we really achieved our mission today. We went through all the advice, and what we found is that every effective strategy from RI to CPS, it all comes back to that authoritative
It
paradigm.
all converges there.
Yeah, the formula is that consistent blend of high warmth, delivered with respect and high structure, maintained with consistency and skill building. It's not about getting instant obedience.
No.
It's about prioritizing the relationship and your own non reactive, safe presence. And if you tie this all the way back to those early principles of respect with an infant, you see this huge long term dividend. The things you do with a baby, giving them space, fostering autonomy, that directly leads to young adults who are self sufficient.
They're the ones who can handle things on their own.
They're the ones doing their own college applications, navigating job interviews, making big life choices because they've been practicing autonomy their whole lives.
It's competence building right from the very start.
Exactly. So, for you, our listener, here's a provocative thought to take with you. This week, just consider how often you step in to do something for your child that they could at least attempt themselves, whether it's tying a shoe or cleaning up a spill or even scheduling their own appointment. How might that small, deliberate act of giving them permission to struggle today be the foundational building block for their future independence, their confidence, and their unwavering belief that they are capable of handling the hard things?